love riding my bike. I love running. I don't care what they think about it. I love it.
At that point, when I knew I was going to win, chills just went up and down my entire body.
I don't believe there are any good or bad foods. Food is food.
I still feel so passionate about getting that record that I'm like, I'm just going to do it.
As an athlete, I was like, what's my story, or what's your story? What can you learn from it? And what can you teach people?
Welcome to the IronWomen podcast. I'm Haley Chura, and I'm joined by Alyssa Godesky. Alyssa, last week you gave me a challenge to help me swim in cold water, and you suggested I wear a base layer underneath my wetsuit. And I did do another open water swim, and I'm here to report back on what happened.
Yes, tell me. So did the base layer save the day?
You will not believe this, but on the 4th of July, when I swam in this lake, it was, I swear it was below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. In the shallow area where we measured the temperature, it was 55, and I barely made it through 2 1K laps, so about 2K, and I was dying, right? This week, 1 week later, it was a slightly different circumstance because it's been a lot warmer, and I was actually doing a little bit of a camp this past week, and part of the camp was to do a time trial up to the lake. So we did a point-to-point ride this week, and I rode really, really hard up to the lake. So I was very hot. The air was a lot hotter. It was in the 90s.
Whoa.
And guess what the water temperature was?
Well, I'm going to assume it didn't go down, and you didn't get to wear my base layer idea. How was it, 60 or 65? How much did it go up?
61. It was 61.
Okay.
It went up that much. So I did not wear the base layer, and I'm so thankful because I actually ended up needing to wear that afterwards because there was grilling, and I was I only had packed a puffy jacket and all this cold weather gear, and it was actually warm, but it was just, I can't believe water temp can change that much in 1 week. I was actually surprised. I made it through 4K of swimming this week, which was, more of what I needed to do. And it was a really nice afternoon. So I didn't get to test it out, but I was ready just in case. And, thanks to you, I had something to wear after my ride and swim. Oh, and I got the QOM on the climb.
Oh, congratulations. That's exciting.
I'm not a big Strava-er, but I've gotten more into it. I finally figured out how to.
I'll have to follow you. I didn't even know you were on there.
I know. I don't know. I didn't for many years, or I'd post once a year kind of thing. And then I finally figured out how to link my bike computer and my watch. And so things go up automatically. And I always thought it'd be really boring because I ride a lot of the same routes. I run a lot of the same routes. I do a lot indoors, which I do delete some of the indoor stuff because if I forget to change it to indoor, then it says that I rode for 18 seconds or something. And it's just garbage. But, anyway, but I'm kind of enjoying it, but this is one I did want because I had the QM before, but then there was a segment in there where I had tied someone else, and I was I want that full fair and square, but I broke it by 11 seconds from what I did last year.
Okay. Yeah.
It felt honestly a lot faster, but I think I just might have paced it better. And so,
yeah, and if it was 90 degrees outside, I feel like that it probably wasn't that hot last year.
Thank you. I'm going to tell myself that too. I don't think it was that hot last year either. So context, you have to context different. Maybe we had bigger headwind this year. I don't know. But I was proud of myself.
This heat wave is super legit. I'm surprised you even didn't melt at all. But I am impressed. You did wear a wetsuit when it was 61, or were you so warm that you didn't even wear a wetsuit at that point?
No, I did wear a wetsuit because 61. Just to get through 4 laps. But honestly, by next week, sometimes I'll do 2 laps with a wetsuit, and then I'll take it off and do 2 laps without. I'm also anticipating my next race in London will be wetsuit legal. So it's a good chance for me to practice swimming in a wetsuit. So I did wear one, but I didn't need the base layer this week. And I was perfectly fine when I got out. I was in a tank top, and I brought pants, but I wished I brought shorts. It was such a weird, different experience.
Well, keep following me for more tips with hot water swimming. Actually, here's my tip for hot water swimming. Don't even bring clothes. Just arrive to the lake or wherever
naked?
in your bathing suit, and then leave
I'm
in your bathing suit. So.
Just riding naked in Vermont,
in Vermont, that's probably acceptable. People probably would not really say too much. It is near the children's camp, actually, so I probably would get in trouble. But any other lakes, I probably would be allowed to do that. But so that's my tip for before and after hot water swims. And I will say this heat wave really has had a drastic effect on our water temperature too. I feel like Goldilocks these days because I'm just like, it's too cold still. And then I was like, it's just right. But now I'm like, it's way too hot. It's like so frustrating too, because I'm thinking of taking up like scuba, I guess would be the term, because you can feel like a foot, like your arm goes in and the tips of your fingers feel so nice and cool. Like it's still cool, 18 inches under the water surface or whatever. But like that top layer is so hot right now. It's really not pleasant to swim in. So I'm gonna have to, I don't know, your water seems to be a little bit behind mine. So I have a couple weeks, I think, before I need to figure out the tips for to give you all my swim tips.
When I'm complaining about it being too hot. It was warm. I did some long bike rides and the heat wave finally hit Montana. I know that it has been warm everywhere else for a while now. So I'm right there with you. And have we gotten a weather report for Ironman Lake Placid happening this weekend? It's the Ironman Pro Series. I believe it's the last chance for women to qualify for the World Championships in Nice. So big race for North America happening this weekend.
Yeah. And so our listeners might remember, I was really hoping to go and spectate this one. I love this race. I love Lake Placid. One of my FKTs that I hold is in the Adirondacks, and Lake Placid is like in the middle of the Adirondacks. So I spent a lot of time in that area, not only training for Ironman stuff when I was doing that, but also scouting and training for the trail mission and all of that. So I love Lake Placid, love the area, and always use good excuses to go back. However, this year I am passing on that because my knee, Haley, I had x-rays today. Everything is healing. My doctor sent me an exclamation point actually when he responded about it's healing well, which is great. But I just have to keep being conservative and keep like just doing what I'm doing to be getting stronger. And that does not involve hiking into a campsite and then hiking at the campsite and then like spending all day on my feet spectating Ironman, running around Lake Placid. So I will be spectating though. The good news is that in 2024, we have figured out the technology to allow me to spectate potentially even better from home. So I will be doing that on Sunday with the rest of, many of you. I'm sure some of our listeners will be in town there. So if you are in town, just do a couple laps of that really steep hill in town. You know which one I'm talking about for me, because I do wish I was there having to hike myself up and down that one. But Lake Placid, Haley, speaking of open water swimming.
First, can I say, I just looked up the weather for Placid for this weekend.
I think it's supposed to be nice.
Yes, yeah. I was like, guess who is not super hot this weekend? Lake Placid. I mean, I know it's early, but high of 67. That's not perfect.
The heat wave is breaking, I think, on like Wednesday. And so it has been really hot and humid. I mean, if our listeners were watching this video, you might be able to even see that I'm like sweating in my house, because most houses around here like don't have air conditioning. And so it's just been like ungodly hot for the last week or so. And it's going, I mean, these athletes are so lucky, because I feel like that's the best case scenario when you've had to do like some workouts in the heat and you're like, it's like coming down from altitude. Like they're going to enter their like little shakeout and then race day, and they're going to have not a lot of humidity. It's going to be like in the 50s and 60s. It's going to be so nice for race day. I will say 67 and sunny in Lake Placid can feel very, very hot, and don't skimp on your sunscreen, even if that's the case. For whatever reason, some of my like worst sunburns have been in Lake Placid, because I'm always like, oh, it's 67 degrees, right? It's 70 degrees. But I don't know if it's just because it is like a small, tiny bit of elevation or something. And maybe my skin's just sensitive, but I always get bad sunburn there. So wear your sunscreen, people.
Always good advice. You have raced in Placid. I actually haven't. I am curious about your thoughts on the course, and if you have tips for any of our listeners who are headed to Placid this weekend to race or cheer.
Yeah, I do. I love this course. I think it has a lot of fun memories for me. It was one of my like better Ironmans, I want to say in 2013. So the year before I was going pro. So it was like a good memory of one of my last age group finishes there. And then I did race there I might have raced there twice. It was actually my final Ironman. It turned out to be my retirement Ironman. So that was also not a great day, but it was like a special, you know, it always will have kind of that like special feel because of that. And it was fun except for the result of that race. We can say that. But tips for the course. So I do have a few other than my sunscreen tip on the bike. So first of all, if you can, this is definitely a course where it would behoove you to take a vehicle ride and ride the bike course ahead of time. I think just getting your eyes on it, seeing some of the climbs and kind of the layout of them, and just knowing, being able to like see the segments and break that up in your head, I think is really, really helpful. So I definitely don't say that about every race course, but I think this is one, if you're there on Thursday, it is worth your while. You know, honestly, even Friday, if you're like able to do it without it taking up too much of your day, go check out the bike course in a car and just see it, because it is hard to do like a pre-race ride on it because you're kind of climbing or descending in either direction. And so you don't get to see too much of the course when you're only riding for like an hour or something in the days before the race. So check out the bike course. I think it's really good to see. And along those lines, this is definitely a bike course where I think patience always pays off in an Ironman bike, right, Haley? But this one definitely is like going to pay off in heaps if you are patient. There's I want to say like a 12-mile climb back up to the town of Lake Placid at the end of each lap. And it's a big climb. And so you do not want to hit that already fried, right? So be ready for that. You can make up a lot of ground on people. You know, again, weather's supposed to be nice, but it can be windy there. So just don't light your matches, right? Too early in that bike ride. Save it. Definitely save it. And then on the run, same thing. Like on the run, it's 2 loops, and the kind of the way out on each loop is like a slight downhill for the most part. And then you do like a gentle climb with like a steep uphill towards the end of each lap. So again, you know, be smart, be patient, stick to your plan with that run, and you will end up catching a lot of people who aren't smart and patient and kind of following the tried and true like Ironman mantras, right, of that. So I think just really trusting in yourself and your pacing is so important on a course like that, because yeah, it's a very fun, honest course. And have fun out there though. I'm excited. Mirror Lake is also great. You would like to swim in Mirror Lake, Haley. I could see you having a really good swim there.
It's like nice and cool.
Yeah,
Usually
it's a cable swim. So it is a cable swim. So there's like a cable. I think they've changed it back, so you actually have the cable to follow the whole way. And that's actually a good thing to tell people too. I think a lot of people are like, it's a cable swim, I don't have to sight. But just keep in mind, there's like 2,000 people, right, all swimming still at once. And so like, I don't know if I've ever really seen the cable. Like, I think Haley would be the one that could potentially get onto a cable, right, and see it and like use that for her swimming. The rest of us, it's like a pretty normal swim, and you're just like sighting off of buoys and swimming, but it is like a very straightforward layout. It's a nice, good, clean swim.
Yeah, there are some good swimmers on the start list. You have Lauren Brandon and Lottie Vilms, who were first out of the water in Texas. And then Rachel Zelinskis is on the start list. I hope she is healthy enough and ready to race. She's raced very well in Placid before. And so that'll be kind of fun to see them, you know, lead on that cable swim and follow that cable and get out there. And then, I mean, the start list it's incredibly stacked. We talked to Jackie Herring last week, and we know she's in good form, just set that American record in Hamburg and is going after that pro series. So this will be her second Ironman in a while. And our very own Sarah True from If We Were Riding podcast is doing her first Ironman of the year. She won Placid. She won Placid last year, or no, 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years
2 years ago. 2 years ago, I think.
2 years ago she won there because she won Frankfurt last year. But I mean, Sarah doesn't really show up for races unless she's ready to throw down. So I'm excited to see what she can do. And I mean, it's going to be really, really good. You had returning champion Alice Alberts, second place from last year, Erin Schenkels. I mean, it's going to be a fast race. Jody Robertson, who we had on the show a year ago, who, you know, is a teacher and often doesn't race until the summer, is going out there. And I think this is kind
She's
of
done very well there.
no, she didn't last year. She DNF'd, remember? And like, I think this is the race that
Oh,
like she really cares about because she's from New York or she lives in New
yeah.
York and like would
And she
love to
hasn't
have a
raced there
really good
before?
day. I don't know if she's had like a race that she like feels was up to her potential there
Okay.
in
Okay.
Placid. Like I feel like
Okay. That's
she's raced
fair.
really well in Coeur d'Alene and in Texas, but that I know that there's like I feel like there's like a New York shaped or a Lake Placid shaped chip on her shoulder.
She has been
This
third. So
week.
she was third in
Okay.
2018 and eighth in 2022. So yeah, I can see that. I can see that she has I think you're right that she's wanted to go back there and maybe yank herself a few more steps up on that podium.
Yeah, but it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. So definitely this Sunday, tune in, Ironman Watch, or I think it's like IronmanProSeries.com. You can watch the live feed and should be great and entertaining. If you maybe you're on the trainer because it's so hot where you are and you need to like stay inside and keep things
I
cooler.
I did notice, Haley, that Lottie Wilms is there. She's been there, I think, for a few days now. And so she posted today she was like, "Oh, dreams come true. I'm seeing Bambi in real life." And it was like a little baby deer, right? And so that made
Oh,
me think about wildlife. There is some fun wildlife there for people. So always keep your eyes peeled for deer and bear in that area. And Haley, this is my transition to tell you, speaking of bear, are you ready for this?
oh, did you see one?
Well, no, but I can't see it because I can't hike up into the backyard right now, right? But
Oh.
there is a bear in our backyard
Like living
and
there, like it's
living there.
your own like pet
I in my head,
that
that's
stays
what's going on
outside.
because Matt and Max ran into it last week, and then our neighbor has seen it with its cub walking around her yard
Ooh.
right next to us. So it's definitely like I think living in the area, we will say, like we're now living in its neighborhood is probably more correct. And so anyway, Haley, I had Matt this morning when he went up there install a game camera. So I'm
Oh,
going to get some pictures
cute.
and hopefully I'll be sharing some wildlife photos of whatever is in our backyard until that's like how I'm gonna spectate up there.
How does Max react when he sees a bear?
So we found out that actually he is very well behaved that time, at least. So
Wow.
like Matt kind of came over the ridge and he had been out of sight for like a minute. And so he came over and saw Max like a statue and he was like pointing, you know how dogs like point. But
Uh-huh.
Max will do that when he like thinks he sees something and it's like a leaf, right? Like, so you never really know. And so he's just like, okay, Max, like, come on. And he didn't move again. And then Matt's like, that was weird. So then he like looked and like he said 50 feet away was a big bear.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I worry about that. We have bears sometimes around here and I don't want to find out. I usually can see him before Cowboy does, and I'm just like, I don't need an emergency vet visit. I mean, Cowboy has a
Yeah.
pretty strong self-preservation streak, so I don't think he's gonna like run after the bear, but he would probably come right back to me, and we would both go hide. But no, I think yeah, keep your trash in, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like keep it away.
Yeah. But do you have porcupines out there? Has Cowboy ever seen a porcupine?
I think we do, but I hope we would never see one. Porcupines and
Okay.
skunks are what I like fear
Yeah.
him running into because I'm like, I don't have time for either of those. And
No. Max has had
I
a
don't
run-in
want
with
to
a
do that.
dead skunk before, which was awful and traumatic in like several ways, but then he's never seen a porcupine like when he's been off leash, but he is very interested in he's way more interested in the porcupines than the bears.
Mm,
So that is going to be, hopefully we just like never see that. But I know
yeah.
Sarah True's dog has definitely had a porcupine run-in before, and dogs around here,
Yes.
unfortunately, it like does happen quite a bit.
Oh,
Yeah. So knock on
yeah.
wood,
The
none of
great
that.
outdoors. But the other big race that is coming up is
Going back to racing.
the Olympic Games. They are happening. The opening ceremonies are just a couple weeks away, and the Olympic triathlon is also coming up. The women's race is on the 31st of July at 8 a.m. Paris time, which is midnight
Wolf.
for me here in Bozeman. It's 2 a.m. for you,
Oh
Alyssa.
yeah. Perfect.
Throw a party. But it's going to be incredible. It's going to be super incredible. And the feisty team is going to Paris. So Kelly O'Mara, Sarah Gross, Ella Natishin, and Millie. What's Millie's last name?
Millie. I don't know. We need to, we're going to find out and tell everyone next week. That's for sure. My Slack isn't open either right now.
I know. Millie Perry.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Lydia could edit that one, but Millie Perry, I'm so sorry. I got ahead of myself there. But they will be going to Paris and providing you with a ton of great content. So that does mean Alyssa and I will be on a little bit of a break. You won't hear from us for 2 weeks, but you won't miss us. There's going to be so much good content on this feed, this feed, podcast feed, and also on the Feisty Media social channels. So definitely tune in and follow that. And then once we get back in, mid-August, it will be so much to talk about. It'll be great.
Yes, yes. And speaking of the Olympics and Olympic fever, our 2 weeks before we go on break, Haley, are Olympic themed with our guests.
Oh, that's right. There was a segue there. So this week I talked to British triathlete who is about to race her first Olympic Games in Paris. It's happening in just a couple weeks, Kate Waugh. And so Kate was the under 23 world champion in 2022. And then she had this breakthrough 2023 season. It culminated with a second place finish at the grand final in Pontevedra. I talked to Kate while she was at her altitude training base in Font-Romeu, France, ahead of last weekend's race at WTCS Hamburg. Kate finished 7th in Hamburg, so great tune-up headed into Paris. Kate told me about her Olympic prep, how she found out she made that very competitive British Olympic squad, how she's using her past experience at last year's Paris test event to prepare for the specific challenges of this race course, including the swim in the Seine. And since both the podcast and Kate are sponsored by Orca, Kate shares what she loves about Orca wetsuits and her favorite wetsuit. I'll have that full conversation with Kate Waugh right after the break. Hi, Kate. Welcome to the IronWomen podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Haley.
So where are you right now? I know you are training for the Olympic Games, which are quickly approaching. Where are you and how is that going?
So I'm currently in the Pyrenees in Font-Romeu with my training group, with my coach, Paulo Souza.
And so you are there for altitude training, is that right?
Yeah. So I've been here for 5 weeks now. I'm here for another week, and then I'll be dropping down from altitude to go to Hamburg WTS.
Okay. And do you like it? Do you like training at altitude?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I mean, there's something so breathtaking about training in the mountains. I think every day you wake up with like this beautiful view, and I feel so lucky that kind of this is my job and that I get to train in these environments. And obviously altitude adds the kind of additional stimulus and stressor, which is why we come here. And yeah, so far I've been really enjoying it. And yeah, it's been really fun camp. Obviously super hard. My body's pretty tired at the moment, but I think, I mean, as it's getting kind of warmer and we're more into summer, I think the vibes have been good across the squad. And yeah, we've been getting some hard work done together.
And Paulo Sousa's squad is international. So you have athletes from all different countries. What is that like leading into these Olympic Games?
Yeah, I think we're all in a super kind of special position in that there's 9 of us from this squad training for the Olympics from all different countries. And I think everyone who is in contention to qualify for the Olympics has qualified. So yeah, I think that's just helped the vibes of the squad be really, really good. And everyone's been super motivated and been working really well together. So yeah, I think it's been a really special camp. I think we kind of went through a couple of weeks where everyone was kind of waiting to hear about qualification. Mine was a especially long period. So that was kind of a stressful time, but yeah, I think we were all kind of super supportive of each other, and it's really nice that everyone's kind of had the result they were looking for, and now we all are kind of working towards the same goal of competing to the best of our ability in Paris.
And that women's British team selection did take quite a while, and you and Georgia Taylor Brown ended up receiving the discretionary slots to join Beth Potter to compete in Paris. So what was that waiting period like for you? I mean, you mentioned stressful, but are you motivated in your training during that time? Are you really worried, or did you feel like everything was going to fall into place?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a really stressful period because I didn't I hoped I knew what the outcome was, but I never really knew for sure. So yeah, during that time, I think training was more kind of a stress relief from kind of what was going on the side. And yeah, I mean, like I said before, my training group was super supportive, and yeah, we still had fun in training and just got the work done together, and that kind of helped relieve a lot of the stress because yeah, ultimately I didn't know which way it was going to go, and obviously I was up against some super strong competition, and but yeah, I mean, I feel that last year I had such a breakthrough year, and I performed in the key races that were asked of us. And yeah, I think ultimately it came down to that yeah, I had a really good performance in Pontevedra last year, and I'm glad that they kind of ultimately considered that. And yeah, I think my motivation was still pretty high because obviously, like, regardless of kind of the outcome, I'm still always working towards being the best triathlete I can be, regardless of what I ended up competing in this year. So yeah, I kept working hard during that period. And now, yeah, obviously hearing the good news was yeah, an additional kind of boost of motivation.
How did you get the news? Like, who delivers that?
So we actually just received an email just from our performance director, which essentially said kind of whether we'd been selected or not. So yeah, I think I was sitting in a restaurant, a very quiet restaurant with my boyfriend at the time. And I think we both just started crying
Oh.
in this restaurant, and there were people kind of giving us funny looks because it was really quite a quiet atmosphere in this restaurant. And we're both just quietly kind of crying in the corner. So it was a super special moment because yeah, Max, my boyfriend, has kind of been by my side for the last 3 years and been so supportive of me. So to share that moment with him was really, really special.
Yeah. And have you gone through like team processing and received all your Team GB gear, or is that something that's going to happen later?
Yeah, I actually received my GB kit 2 days ago, and gave kind of my family a bit of a fashion show on FaceTime. Obviously, they're back in the UK at the moment, so that was kind of fun. And but because of the appeal process that went on during our selection, I wasn't able to go to the actual kitting out day, which yeah, I was like pretty upset about at the time, because you know it's all kind of part of it being selected for an Olympics. But yeah, I still got to kind of enjoy it with my family. And yeah, so receiving the kit was like, oh, this is becoming real now. And yeah, that was an exciting moment.
And you have raced on the course in Paris. You raced in the test event last August and you finished 7th. Can you tell us about the course?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a beautiful, iconic course, that's for sure. We have kind of the Eiffel Tower in the background, and we get to ride at the Champs-Élysées, and so it's an incredible course. I think there's kind of many factors that can be at play during the race. There's obviously a river swim, so we have to kind of consider how the current could affect the swim and kind of how to position ourselves during that. And then obviously there's cobbles on the course during the Champs-Élysées, and there's some technical parts as well. And it's going to be a really, really fast course because it's super flat. And yeah, and then the run's kind of similar. There's some cobbly sections, and yeah, it's going to be a fast run as well. So, but yeah, I think overall it's going to be an incredible race to watch. I imagine the French will put on an amazing show, and yeah, I'm so excited to be going there again.
What was it like to swim in the Seine? Have you practiced running up the stairs too? Is that something you've added to your training?
Yeah, I'm hoping the altitude training will help me with that. We're doing some hill reps and running as well, so maybe that'll come into play then. But yeah, I mean, I guess there's kind of been a lot of press around swimming in the Seine, and yeah, obviously there's the kind of water quality issue, which is the big kind of elephant in the room with the triathlon at the moment. But for during our race, the quality levels were good, and yeah, I mean, for sure I've swam in dirtier water, so I can say that. But yeah, I think the current definitely played a way bigger role than I actually thought it would. I definitely didn't position myself very well at all, particularly going kind of with the current when it's super fast, because I think there's definitely different parts of the river that are flowing a bit faster than others. So yeah, I think that's one of my key learnings from test event. And yeah, I feel kind of lucky to have been able to test it out, because I don't think I appreciated kind of how strong the current would play a factor. So yeah, so that's definitely something I'm kind of considering going into the main race.
What about just the Olympic experience? This will be your first Olympics, but I imagine you're training with some athletes who are veterans, who have been to the games before. Have they given you any tips on what to expect, on how this might be different than your normal race?
I think ultimately our squad are just kind of preparing as if it's any other big like race of the year. I think that's kind of kept us stay consistent and kind of stay grounded in our training and not kind of go crazy. But yeah, I mean, ultimately it's the Olympics. Like, no one can pretend that it's anything other than the biggest race that you've ever done. But yeah, I think they've more kind of got me excited around everything that happens around the Olympics, kind of getting to go to the Olympic Village, and getting to go to all the kind of clubhouses, which I'm super excited about, but kind of for after the race. But yeah, I think ultimately you kind of have to prepare as if it's any other race, and yeah, just kind of try and put out your best performance on the day and try and shut out the noise that comes with the Olympics as well.
And in last year's broadcast, they said that the temperature in Paris was warm for an 8 a.m. race. I think it was around 22 Celsius, low 70s Fahrenheit. But I know you've raced well in Abu Dhabi and Thailand, which I imagine are much warmer locations. Are you expecting a warm day in Paris?
I think particularly on the run, it'll be kind of around 9:30, 10 a.m. when we're onto the run. So yeah, I'd imagine it'll be heating up quite a lot then. And obviously it's kind of peak summer as well. And I know Paris can be super, super hot in the summer. So yeah, I'm expecting a hot run. So it'll be important to kind of stay on top of hydration as well. But yeah, I mean, compared to races like Thailand and Abu Dhabi, I don't think it'll come close. I think those places are kind of next level. So yeah, I mean, I hope I'm pretty prepared for what's coming.
Are you someone who just is naturally pretty good in the heat because you won those races in Abu Dhabi and Thailand? Or is this something that you specifically prepare for?
Yeah, honestly, I've never thought of myself as someone who can compete well in the heat, but I guess, yeah, I guess you've just mentioned a couple races that I have actually competed pretty well at. um, but yeah, into the grand final in Abu Dhabi, I did some very specific heat prep, kind of in a bit of a garden tent with heaters. Honestly, that was the most intense training I've ever done in my life. Because it's kind of super claustrophobic when you're training in kind of a small tent. And
Are you on a bike? Is that what you're riding, like a trainer
yeah,
on a
so
bike?
I
Okay.
did a lot of kind of bike sessions in a garden tent with heaters. Yeah, so that was super intense, but I think it really paid off. And yeah, I think that's definitely helped my kind of adaptation to the heat. And I think also just kind of not overthinking it, just obviously you're kind of sweating a lot more. So just making sure you're taking on that additional fluid to account for the sweat loss. And I guess that's kind of how I prepare for the heat. And like I said, I don't think Paris is going to be quite as hot as those races, or at least that's not what I'm prepared for. We could get a super hot day. I know that can happen, but yeah, I think just kind of not overthink it, and just if there does come that additional heat, just making sure you're kind of using the water stations well, and things like that.
Do you like an 8 a.m. start? Because a lot of World Triathlon Series races actually start later in the day. And so this is a little unusual, right?
Yeah, I'm absolutely not a morning person. So when I saw the 8 a.m. start, I'm like, oh gosh. But I thought I would really struggle last year. But honestly, when you wake up on race morning, it's like you have that kind of rush of adrenaline. And I take kind of a double espresso and I'm kind of ready to go. So I mean, it wouldn't be what I would choose. I would choose an evening race any day of the week. I definitely kind of get a kind of boost of energy in the evenings. But yeah, I mean, with the adrenaline that comes with like competing at the Olympics, I think there's not much to worry about there.
I know. That was the first I'd actually looked it up, and I was like, I'm in the US and I'm like, oh no, this is midnight for me. I'm like, oh, am I gonna have to like set some alarms or something? I might do it. It is so much fun to watch it live, and I'm not someone who can like avoid spoilers. When I wake up, I'm gonna be like checking social media immediately to see the results. So I might have to like make some fancy scheduling here. But you mentioned going to Hamburg. So you have a sprint distance race that's happening July 13th. Is this a tune-up for Paris? Is that the goal here?
Yeah, honestly, I wanted to make sure that I was competing on day 21 of dropping down from altitude, because I know that worked for me last year. And sorry, there's a fly that's just wanting to interrupt this podcast.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I wanted to compete on day 21 of dropping down from altitude. So I've timed the Olympics with that. And then I also wanted to compete on day 3, just kind of to repeat what I did last year. So Hamburg kind of fell perfectly into that. And yeah, I'll just be kind of going through kind of a few race processes and taking off some processes in my head, and just basically just to kind of a run through before Paris. Basically, any mistakes I want to make them in Hamburg over Paris. And I know a lot of people kind of avoid racing close to like an Olympic Games, but I know kind of what I need is to kind of run through the processes closer to the time. And I have a habit of kind of making a few mistakes if I haven't raced in a while. So just to kind of tick off things like that, and practice my race shoes and the tri suit that I'll be wearing at the games as well. Just kind of things like that, just a bit of a run through.
And so there are 3 British women who will race the individual in Paris, and 2 will also race on the next relay event, which is happening August 5th. Are you hoping to be selected for the relay as well? When does that selection happen?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we have a super strong women's team, but I'm none the wiser than anyone else as to who will be on the team relay. I think that decision will be made after the individual race. And yeah, I think kind of whoever puts out the best kind of swim, bike, run is kind of in a strong contention for the relay selection. And yeah, I hope I can be one of them. I think I've shown in the past that I'm a strong relay athlete, and obviously I've competed well over kind of the Super League races as well, which I think is a good representation of your relay ability. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see, to be honest. I wish I could give you an answer, but I have no clue either.
Because the relay is so much shorter than the individual event, is there anything specific that you add to your training to keep yourself sharp for those short distances?
I find quite often that when I'm in good shape for Olympic distance triathlon, the kind of the speed's there as well. We do a bit of speed work in training. I think I said earlier we do some hill reps, and we quite often add a bit of speed to the end of a run session. So I think it not in particular, like there's no real kind of difference in training approach. I guess just making sure you're kind of super warmed up for that relay, because it's kind of over before you know it. So yeah, just making sure your warm up is really thorough.
What is your typical warm up?
So it kind of depends where we are in the world. If it's like a super hot race, if it's a cold race, I try to kind of be flexible with what I like to do into a race. If it's a hot race, I try and do quite a short warm up and just get my heart rate going. And if it's a cooler race, I tend to do a bit of a longer warm up just to make sure all my muscles are kind of ready to go. I like to do a good swim warm up. And kind of maybe before that a 10-15 minute jog and some strides. Nothing too complicated, to be honest. When you get to race site, it's kind of everything kind of goes super fast, and you have to get your stuff into transition, obviously, and you have to do your check-in processes, so you don't really have time to do a huge warm-up. But particularly I like to feel warmed up on the swim, because obviously that's the first discipline. And I find when I jump off the block and go straight into a sprint at the start of a race, it can be too much of a shock if I haven't done a good swim warm up. So that's kind of what I prioritize.
Okay. On social media, you've mentioned that you've been going all in on these Olympic Games for the past 18 months, which I think dates back to maybe that win in Abu Dhabi as the world under 23 champion. What did you mean by going all in?
So I guess I was kind of training in the lead up to my training for the under 23 grand final. I remember having a bit of a blip where I was like, I really want to try and go and qualify for Paris. That's what I want to prioritize. So I almost entered the elite grand final instead of the under 23 grand final, because I was concerned about my points and my world ranking. And then ultimately I decided that I wanted to practice racing kind of at the very front of a race, and kind of learning to take a race on kind of myself and be in control. So that's why I ended up racing the under 23 grand final and kind of going for the title. And then kind of after that, I said, okay, the next thing on kind of my trajectory, I feel, is qualifying for the Olympic Games. And at the time I was studying at university still, and I was just finding it really difficult to kind of keep that balance between like studying well and training well as well. So yeah, I decided to put my studies on hold. So I guess that's kind of what I meant with going kind of all in. And I decided to change up my training environment and kind of move to Paulo Sousa's training group, where you basically are just living the life of a full-time triathlete. There's kind of no distractions. We're basically living on a permanent training camp. And I think for me, and what I felt like I needed to be in an environment where I couldn't give myself any excuses. Because obviously when you're in Leeds, you're kind of in a city and around a student vibe, and it's kind of easy to get dragged into the kind of the student life as well. So yeah, I decided to go into that training environment, and I kind of sat down with Paulo when I first joined him and said, okay, you might think I'm crazy, but I really want to kind of try and qualify for the Olympics, and this is what I need to do to get there. And yeah, he was fully supportive of that. And so yeah, I guess that's what I mean when I say I go all in. I basically upped my life in Leeds. I sold my flat, and yeah, moved to this international group. And yeah, I had kind of a certain amount of funds in my bank account at the time, and I just put everything into kind of that year. And I said to myself, kind of, this was at the start of 2023, these are the funds I have for this year. If I'm successful, I'll be able to keep going. If I'm not, I kind of need to go back to where I came from. So yeah, I was kind of super motivated to make it work, because I wanted to make it work. And yeah, luckily it paid off. And yeah, I'm on my way to the Olympics.
Yeah, that is pretty scary though when you did it. Were there any friends or family that discouraged you or said, "Oh no, this might not be the right decision"?
I think my mum and dad always knew that I didn't want to be in Leeds forever. I think I I never really felt like it was for me. Just the environment and the place to train. I always wanted to kind of move abroad and train in Spain and like train in beautiful locations while I have the kind of opportunity. And yeah, I think my parents were supportive of the idea of me just fully committing to something. And yeah, obviously they said they'd kind of still support me whatever happened. And yeah, luckily it paid off. And I've been able to kind of go into this year a bit more financially stable. It was definitely pretty scary starting 2023 and kind of knowing that if it didn't work out, I would have kind of nothing left.
But you'd
So
only be 24 years old, so
yeah.
at least you have a lot of life ahead of you. I feel like that
Yeah,
helps a
yeah,
little bit.
exactly. I think it was more in terms of like financing what I wanted to do. It's not a cheap way to do the sport. And yeah, like luckily it paid off. And yeah, like I said, I'm only 24, and I think I always kind of said to myself that okay, I can go all in for Paris, and even if I don't qualify, at least I'll be a better athlete for having tried. So yeah, I went in with that mentality. And yeah, I started to kind of see glimpses of training even better and being fitter and racing even closer to the front of World Series. And so yeah, with each race, I kind of got more confident, and now I feel like I'm a bit more established. And I guess that's a different kind of pressure now, because last year I felt very much like the underdog, and now I kind of feel like, oh, I guess people maybe expect me to do a bit better now, whereas before I had like, I guess, no expectations. So yeah, it's a different kind of pressure, I guess, that I put on myself. And yeah, I mean, training's been going well, so hopefully I can kind of do something special when it gets to the big day in Paris.
And you have been pretty public, at least like after the fact, about setting big goals. Winning that under 23 World Championship, that was a goal that you'd stated for 2022, and you did it. Finishing on the podium at a WTCS event, which you did in the grand final last year. Do you have any Olympic goals that you can share with us?
Yeah, so since I can remember, I think I've probably been doing this since I was about 13. At the start of the year, I kind of write out my goals in my diary. And yeah, I've kind of always done that. I like to visualize kind of what I'm going after, and I think it really helps to keep you kind of on track with your goals. So yeah, like when I was 13, it was kind of, I want to win the national title, or I want to get my first GB vest. And yeah, now it's kind of, this year it was, I want to qualify for the Olympics. So it's kind of cool to put a tick next to that. And then yeah, obviously the big goal in the Olympics is to come away with a medal. And yeah, I've been kind of training with that in mind and training hard. And yeah, I think ultimately there's maybe 10 girls that are potential medal contenders, and I like to think I'm one of them. So yeah, it's hard to know what will happen on the day. Sometimes you have a good day, sometimes you have a not so good day. And but yeah, I've been kind of preparing with a big goal in mind.
It's the best way to go into the Olympics, I feel like. Kate, you're sponsored by Orca for wetsuits and swimwear, and that's also a sponsor of the IronWomen podcast. And you are at the pinnacle of your sport now, but Orca and Feisty Media have been running a beginners campaign. And I was just curious if you remember your first triathlon.
Oh my gosh. I think I was about 8 years old when I did my first triathlon. I think it involved a 150-meter swim in a pool, and then running outside to kind of a grass transition and putting on a t-shirt and riding my bike around a field. And I remember in my first triathlon, one of my friends at the time was also doing the triathlon, and she was crying on the run, and I remember stopping with her to check she was all right, and then I ran with her to the finish and I let her beat me. And then I remember thinking, I don't know why I let her beat me. Why did I do that? And after that, I started to become kind of more and more competitive with like no, I want to beat everyone on these start lines. So yeah, I remember absolutely falling in love with the sport from the age of 8, and yeah, just kind of every year trying to increase my level of competition, whether it was kind of, I'm from the northeast of England, so whether it was from a northeast regional championship to a national event to then what became international events. So yeah, I've always kind of given myself these kind of micro goals, and yeah, kind of have been in love with the sport since then.
Yeah. So even though you're only 25 years old, you've been in the sport for almost 20 years, it sounds like. And most people maybe don't start when they're 8 years old, but we have a lot of beginners who listen to the show. Do you have any tips aside from maybe setting those micro goals, which I think are great? Anyone can use those. Any other tips for beginners getting into triathlon?
I think for me, what really gets me through my training is some really great training partners who are super fun to be around, and not necessarily always kind of talking about triathlon, but just want to have a bit of fun. So going for like just my long runs with the girls, and being able to chat to them, I think is a good way to kind of enjoy your training. And also just holding yourself accountable, just setting kind of goals for yourself, whether that's I want to run X amount of Ks this week, or this month I want to do this many swims, and this month I want to do 2 or 3 kind of threshold bike sessions. I think that really helps kind of break apart kind of a long-term goal, and kind of give yourself mini targets as well. I think that really helps for me. I like to kind of take off my training every day and just focus on the day to day. And I think that definitely helps me build up towards like the bigger goals in mind.
I think those are very scalable tips. The swim in Paris won't be wetsuit legal as far as I know, but I think Hamburg might be. So which Orca wetsuit do you usually use and why?
It's the Apex.
The Apex. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how does that fit you? The Apex wetsuit. What do you like about it?
So I've always kind of gone for that wetsuit since I started working with Orca. And I really love how it has some buoyancy around the hips. Because for me, I'm like a bit lazy with my kick when I'm swimming. And particularly when I'm like more fatigued, I find it just kind of lifts you out the water more. And I really like the flexibility around your shoulders. I find it doesn't like tire your arms out as much. I remember there was one race in particular. We were building up to a race in Yokohama last year, and we were swimming in this freezing cold pool all week, and we all had to wear our wetsuits all week. And I remember loads of girls kind of complaining that their shoulders were so sore from swimming in a wetsuit all week, and that literally didn't even occur to me. So I think that kind of shows how like the Orca wetsuit around the arms is super flexible. And yeah, like I said, I really like the buoyancy around the hips, and I tend to have one of the fastest transitions in the sport. So it's also like a good wetsuit to kind of take off really quickly. So yeah, I think for me, like the Orca is the best wetsuit I've swum in ever. Like I can hand on heart say that. I really, really back that wetsuit. And yeah, I know when it's a wetsuit swim that it's kind of game on for me. So yeah, it definitely fills me with confidence when I stand on the start line.
And Kate, you finished your 2023 season winning the Super League, which has now been rebranded as Super Tri Series. I know that they're kind of rolling out a new format for 2024. It will be kicking off in Boston in the US. We have a couple North American locations this year and slightly different team setup. And I think they're just announcing rosters right now. Can you tell us, are you planning to race Super Tri? Is this a secret?
I don't know. I don't think it's a secret. I am planning to race Super League. I don't know if I can announce the team yet, but
Okay.
I am planning to race Super League, Super Tri even. I'm super excited. I absolutely love the Super Tri scene. I think the atmosphere around the events is always really special, and all the organizers. I love working with kind of all the media team. They're a lovely bunch of people, and yeah, just kind of all people involved in Super Tri. I think they make it really fun and super professional as well. So I've really enjoyed doing Super Tri over the last couple of years.
So Boston's only, I think, 2 weeks after Paris. So you'll go from Paris straight into Super Tri season.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I was talking to my boyfriend about this the other day, that kind of after Paris, the season's like super packed with races. But I think it'll be exciting to have kind of, I guess, however Paris goes, it'll be exciting to kind of channel kind of a new focus and kind of, yeah, go and kind of enjoy the Super Tri racing, because I always do. And yeah, I'm really excited to kind of go to some new locations in America. It's not a country I've been to very much, and the only places I've been are California, and I think I went to Florida like years and years ago. So I'm excited to kind of see Boston and Chicago as well, and yeah, hopefully get to do a bit of touristy things as well, and hopefully have some good races there.
Ride that post-Olympic high straight over here to North America. But Kate, thank you so much for taking some time out of your Olympic prep to chat with us. We will be tracking and following, even if it's in the middle of the night for us, but we cannot wait. I cannot wait for these Paris Olympic Games. I think it's going to be so cool. Iconic courses, fierce competition. It's exactly what we love in this sport. So best of luck to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm sure Paris is going to put on an incredible show. So thank you so much for your support.
Thanks, Kate, for coming on the show. I am so psyched to watch the races in Paris, even if they are in the middle of the night for me. I might be up. I might just still be up. Maybe I'll have some nice jet lag going from London. I'll just still be on European time. Just fix myself a croissant that I purchased somewhere and watch that race in Paris. Do you think you could do that, Alyssa?
I think I could more realistically just not pay attention to anything and then watch it when I wake up is like probably.
You can avoid all spoilers. You're just like not gonna find out. You can wait like that. See, I also could see myself if I do fall asleep, I will wake up, I'll find out who won, and then I'll still watch it.
Yeah.
I gotta see how it unfolded, but I can't keep myself from watching. I don't have that kind of self-control. But Kate did mention that after the Olympics, she is headed to Boston for that first stop on the Super Tri Series, just 2 weeks after the Olympics. And another special guest will also be in Boston, I hear.
Oh, yes, Haley. I will be in Boston for Super Tri. Am I returning to racing? No, definitely not. That would be quite a return for me.
For
Can
like
you imagine?
super sprint, you were like,
yeah, I was like, let me just start with something short. Yeah. Can't really do much of anything, or can't even do a full rotation on the bike, but Super Tri, here I come. But no, I'm super excited. Kelly O'Mara and I will be in Boston for that. And so I will keep a lookout for Kate. I will be cheering for her there. And yeah, I'm really excited to get to see that in person. I think it's a super exciting format of racing. I'm also excited for the age group racing that weekend that Kelly and I will be around for. So everyone,
do the age groupers race the same Super Tri format, or are they doing more traditional distances?
That will be a good question for the recording after that weekend.
Okay.
But I will find out all of that information before I go to Boston, so I'm well prepared for it. But in the meantime, if anyone knows the answer and just wants to give it to me so that my research is easy, or you have other questions or just want to ask us things about Boston, what we're doing there, send in questions to our mailbag, ironwomenpodcast@gmail.com.
Awesome, Melissa. Keep recovering well. Enjoy spectating Placid. Then we have London in a few weeks, and then the Olympics. It's so much to look forward to. And
it is,
hopefully we can get excited about all of it. But I will talk to you next week.
Bye, Haley.
You've been listening to the IronWomen podcast hosted by Haley Chura and Alyssa Godesky.
IronWomen is a production of Feisty Media and is edited by Lydia Russell and produced by Ella Natition.
Head to livefeisty.com to find more podcasts, stories, and fresh perspectives.
Thanks for listening.